Part 2 is activating your glutes. Now, we activate the glutes for 2 reasons. One, because again, they help stabilize the pelvis. And the pelvis is what the low back sits on. So you can have a stable lumbar spine, but if your pelvis is unstable, then there's going to be an inherent instability in the spine because it sits on an unstable surface, which is the pelvis. So we need to stabilize that area. What we also need to do in that area is we need to build the movement in the hips. So we get the glutes providing the movement, or the hips providing the movement, and the spine is able to stay in as stationary a position as possible. Now when we get to part number 4, I'm gonna add some caveats to that. But with regards to exercise and loading, we need to get our movement from the hips, and we need to maintain posture through the spine. Exercises that we would use, the most obvious one, certainly from the perspective of a beginner, is the bridge and the single leg bridge. We can also bring in what I would describe as like a bridge march. So basically we are on our shoulders, our hips are up, our knees are bent, and our feet are on the floor. We would squeeze the glutes using the double leg bridge with both feet down. Then we would go into a marching scenario, because then we've got one foot coming up and down, one foot coming up and down. Then we would go into a single leg bridge. So that will get the muscles activated. That will then help you stabilize the pelvis. We would then need to build some movement into that. And exercises to use for that is just very simple hip hinges. And then when you get to the top of the movement, it would then be activating the glutes when you get there. So they're very simple exercises. Now, why are we using these types of exercises? Well, when again you look at certainly glute maximus, it joins again into the thoracolumbar fascia or the lumbodorsal fascia. Now, along with the mid-back muscles that join into it, what they are essentially doing when you activate them and tighten them, you are pulling. So you've got glute on the right pulling down, glute on the left pulling down, mid-back muscles pull on the right pulling up, and mid-back muscles on the left pulling up. So basically you're pulling that taut. And what that's doing, not only the muscles from the mid-back join into the lumbar spine, the thoracolumbar fascia joins into the lumbar spine, and the glutes at the bottom join into the thoracolumbar fascia. With all of that area that's pulled taut, you have, let's just say, maximum stability within the lumbar spine, certainly from the perspective of the thoracolumbar fascia. We're going to talk about the abdominal fascia in a second. So what we are doing, we are pulling taut the whole area. We are using these muscles that we've talked about, so the 5 muscles that we've talked about, longissimus, iliocostalis, latissimus dorsi, and both the glutes. We're using them to stabilize the area. Once we've stabilized the area and we've got the muscles active, as I've mentioned, we can then start building strength and endurance into them. And the more strength and endurance we can build into these muscles, the more we are going to stabilize and strengthen that area. Although we aren't necessarily strengthening the area, we're strengthening it around it, but that provides strength and minimizes the load on the lower back. Because, as I've mentioned already, the lumbodorsal fascia minimizes load on the lower back. Maintaining the proper position minimizes load on the lower back. So we are getting maximum out of the muscles whilst also providing minimal load to the lower back. And that's how we've got to think about not only rehabilitation, but also fitness and exercise, which we're talking about in this tutorial.